In this lesson, we're going to see how to raise our own exceptions so that if we're trying to write some code and the Ruby system will not recognize some sort of user error as an exception, then we can have an exception raised anyway. So let's get started. We're going to call this program raise.rb. And let me start just by showing you how raise is called, and it's called very simply. Simply use the word raise followed by whatever exception message you want. So let's watch what happens here. So you see it writes in program, and then our exception is raised. There's the exception raised message. And then the program stops. So the last part of our code back in program never is displayed because the exception, once it was raised, caused the program to end. Now let's look and see how we would use that in our own code and then handle it correctly with the begin rescue. We're going to define a method C to F for converting Celsius temperatures to Fahrenheit. But the first thing we're going to do is raise an exception if the argument to the method is not a number. So that's what we're doing right here with this part of the code. We're saying raise this exception unless temp is a numeric value. If it's not a numeric value, raise the exception. Otherwise, go ahead and convert the temperature. Like that. And then we can use it in a program. Like so. So let's save the program. Then let's clear the screen and run it. So we entered 100, but we got the exception argument was not a number. You probably saw why, because in our getS statement, we forgot to convert to integer. So T was received as a string. So if we change that by adding the conversion from string to integer and save the program and then run it again, and type in 100, we get the correct answer, which is 212. So this is one example of how you can raise your own exceptions and handle things the way you want to, rather than rely on the Ruby system to find the exceptions. Again, the reason for that is that you may have a situation in one of your programs that if the input is not correct, Ruby may not have an exception for that built in, but you want one yourself so that the program won't just automatically crash. So you can actually handle that exception correctly. And this is how you do it. And it's very simple. You just use the raise statement wherever you want to raise an exception when an error condition occurs. So that wraps up this lesson on raising our own exceptions. And we're going to move on to the last lesson of this chapter, where we're going to look at another way to do error or exception handling using something called catch and throw.